Once again, welcome to everybody. Thank you for your support of the Active Citizens Movement. And this biannual general meeting is a wonderful occasion for those of us who are involved in social, environmental, and gender justice issues, including a concern for the social and economically excluded of our society, to gather together and develop those networks and connections is vitally important to our work. I think at this point I'd like to have a moment of silence and remember all those activists here in South Africa who gave their lives for this new South Africa that we find ourselves in, for those ideals and those values which we must hold on to. There are friends and comrades which we will never forget. And so at this point I'd like to continue. You all received notice of the meeting well in advance, at least 2 weeks before the AGM. And the credentials for our membership have all been ratified, thanks to Comrade Pups. And those who were going to be attending confirmed their attendance or sent apologies. Are there any special apologies anyone would like to mention?
We have a list of apologies that is about 20. Would it be in order if I shared the names online to the membership group rather than read all of it? As far as the quorum for this meeting goes, I think, judging from the numbers, we have about 150 signed up members, and I've counted that a few people have walked in since I counted. There's about 40 people on the side who are seated, I think. It's not more than 40, who are all signed up members, so we are well within our quorum. And Akeem, if you can tell me how many people are online?
13.
And 13 online. So we're about 60, I would imagine. I will share that. It's going to be too much for me to read out now, if you're okay with that. So we will share the list of the names online. Thank you.
Right. So now we move on to the minutes of the 2023 BGM. Can I call our secretary, Comrade Yash, to come forward?
Yes, the 2023 BGM was held on the 29th July 2023 at the 1860 Heritage Centre. The actual minutes, which is quite a lengthy, detailed minutes of that meeting, has been shared to the membership, and it includes our chairperson's address, a very detailed report from the Secretariat, as well as the Treasurer's report, all of which was tabled at the BGM. So if it's in order, and if people have hopefully read it, which was shared last night, we would like to then just move for the adoption and second for it. And there are matters arising, which if you've read through and would like to raise anything, we are open for discussion on that now as well. So I hope you took the time to read that long report. It's the BGM 2023. Yes, Siraj?
I will trust you guys. I will not.
Thank you for the trust, Raj. So, okay.
There's 15 online and 41 in person at 14:06.
Thank you. So, is there any questions from those online? Okay. So it's been adopted by Raj Vidal and seconded by Lizzie Khaleesi. Thank you.
So the next item here is a correspondence related to the 2025 BGM. Is there anything specific?
Yes. The notice of the meeting went out on the 26th of June, which is as per our ACM constitution. There has been no correspondence received regarding today's meeting, other than the attendance and apologies.
Thank you. So, at this point, I'd like to introduce Dr. Kira Owen to us for our keynote address. She's a member of the Secretariat of the Durban Coalition, and she also works for Groundwork, and a great supporter of our concerns about social environmental injustice here in not just Durban, not just in South Africa, but internationally. So, over to you, Comrade.
Hello everyone, lovely to be with you all today and to see so many friendly faces. As many of you know, the Durban Coalition is a group of civil society, a coalition of civil society, community-based organizations and social movements, which also includes some of the progressive ratepayers and residential committees. So just to say that whilst I am going to talk about that work here today, this is a collective effort. And indeed, one of those members is the Active Citizens Movement, so thank you very much to all of you. This is your work as well. Why and how was the coalition formed? After the April 2022 floods, a group of civil society organizations who had worked together for a few years really asked ourselves quite a hard question. And that was, what do you do when it feels like your city is teetering on the edge of a cliff? Do you sit back and watch it fall, or do you try and get more involved? Particularly of concern, which I know many of you share, was the lack of service delivery, but also the inability to respond to a serious disaster, in fact a series of disasters that our municipality had faced. And what we're seeing too is just the consequences of what happens when you don't maintain infrastructure and the really real impact it has on people's lives. Underpinned by all of this, of course, was a great concern about corruption, and I need to tell this group how dangerous that is for all of us. Now, the severe weather events that climate change is driving are definitely going to become more frequent. And it is the most marginalised amongst us that are really going to be impacted by this. So while the middle class and even very wealthy neighbourhoods in those floods in April 2022 lost loved ones and property, what we saw afterwards is that it's the working class, the impoverished and the marginalised who really start to experience the consequences of those for years afterwards sometimes. Some of you are aware that the victims that lost homes and informal settlements are still living almost 3 years later in really substandard, so-called temporary housing with really little effort to get them back to their lives. So in that first discussion, we agreed that we had nothing to lose by starting to work more closely together to see how we could address not just climate change, but the wicked problem of inequality in our city, and importantly, the lack of government accountability to tackling both of these. This began now an almost 3-year journey together. At first, we put a lot of effort into mobilizing civil society for an organized approach to engage in our local government. And we knew things inside the municipality were, and I'm going to use a very diplomatic word here, dire at that point. But we wanted to reach out to them to say this was a moment, actually, where they could partner with civil society once again. We thought that, to be honest, the desperation that we were seeing might make them work with us again to ensure that if we were going to fix infrastructure, and at that point we thought that there was quite a lot of money coming down from national government to do so, that it was done in a way that also addressed inequality, and specifically the spatial inequalities that we were seeing. So part of the engagement we did with government at that time was trying to get an accountability mechanism within the city, such as working groups and multi-stakeholder forums, and particularly ones that included civil society as well as other sectors of decision making. We got as far as the draft terms of reference with the municipality on this, but unfortunately none of these efforts bore much fruit. So I'm going to bore you today on what feels like an endless list of ways in which our government is dysfunctional, or to be more precise, functioning under an alternative agenda and not fulfilling its mandate, because you all know this too well. Except to say that the consequences of this at a very local level, it equates to an abuse of human rights, to violence, neglect, and a loss of lives. Now, sadly, a dysfunctional government also offers opportunities to those who have criminal intent, whether that's for self-enrichment or as part of organised crime. And those particular groupings have been very quick to move in to use these opportunities of a failed state in ways that have really brought our country to its knees. And so it's a time now for a more collective response from civil society to address governance. And I use this word deliberately, not government. We must start to create the types of governance frameworks we need to address inequality and climate change, so that decision-making and prioritising actions are more inclusive and democratic. But to do this, we must do the necessary task of building solidarity across difference. And this requires quite slow but important work. Deep reflection and conscientisation of all people, and particularly for many of us who hold forms of privilege. You know, it's a time to actually slow down and listen again and really work to understand how best do we work with people who are being actively impoverished and oppressed to ensure that our future does hold social and environmental justice. And this really was the approach that the Durban Coalition then took in the second year. To start to focus our time and energy less on trying to convince the municipality to do the mandates it actually already has legally, and instead to start to generate our own solutions. What did we need if we were going to survive really in the age of climate change? So over 18 months, the Durban Coalition and the active citizen movement, many of you have been a part of this, started a participatory planning process for the right to housing in an age of climate change. There were also municipal officials actually who joined in our workshops and our solidarity gatherings as well. We worked really hard to engage the municipality on this, and after officially co-launching the People's Plan with the Chief Strategy Officer of eThekwini in November last year, the city, after some additional strong advocacy on behalf of the Durban Coalition, included the People's Plan in the Integrated Development Plan for 2025 and 26. Yes, well done to all of us. But we do know that just because something is written down on an official government document, it is not a guarantee that it will be implemented. But this is the beauty of slowing down and taking time to work together as civil society to produce a joint plan. Because this is also our plan. And within it, there are programs and projects that can and should be community and civil society led. So as activists, I think many of us know that it's not enough just to voice what we stand against. It's also very important to articulate what we stand for. And I think what we're slowly learning is that we need to take an extra step in our democracy. When you can no longer rely on government to implement planning and projects that ensure a more equal and safe future, we really have to work in solidarity to demonstrate the change we need. So comrades and friends, don't get me wrong, we need government to work for people. A functional and strong state is critical for equality and the protection of human rights, as well as the right to a healthy environment. And many of us continue to engage and push for accountability and functionality across all three spheres of government, and many of you in this room continue to do so. But equally, we do not have to wait for government to wake up before we take action. We have everything to gain by starting to implement the kinds of programs and projects that are needed to adapt and learn how to keep each other safe, particularly in severe weather events like flooding, extreme heat, shortage of food, etc. Hopefully, once the politicians remove the rot and sort out the internal squabbling, they may learn from what we have done together and support this work. I want to give you one such example of where the Durban Coalition is now focusing its activities, and that is around community-led disaster management planning. One thing we learned is that community members and community-based organizations, sometimes NGOs and faith-based organizations, were the first responders in disasters. It doesn't matter who you spoke to after April 2022, people use words like, "we felt abandoned by government." That meant that it was your neighbor who came to your aid. It was someone across the road who was helping you, look after a wounded person, for example, or feeding you when you had lost your possessions. So we really want to focus on capacitating each other to say, what does it look like if we can create community emergency response teams? Teams of volunteers who have a supportive network, who operate in a neighborhood, and who learn what it means to be first responders, actually. And I can say that we are not alone. There are actually many cities in the world that are starting to look at this model. When your government cannot respond, some of us can. So we would invite you, our first session on this is on the 5th of August at Botanic Gardens. When we started to explore this particular area, we found out that actually there's a lot of work going on, particularly in universities, but we didn't seem to know about it. So on the 5th of August, we've invited all the stakeholders that we are aware of who are doing this kind of work, so that they can come together with us, with community members directly affected by this kind of flooding, for some people now 4 times, to learn what does it mean for us to capacitate ourselves to address these kinds of disasters. Now, many of you in the room, I think, would agree with me when I say that the principle of non-racialism that emerged from the struggle against apartheid, it is a verb, not a noun. Just putting non-racialism or non-sexism down on paper, even an important piece of paper like our Constitution, it doesn't make it suddenly true for all people in our country. The majority of Black people in this country remain impoverished and marginalised, and that is a collective shame that we carry. But it's also a call to action. At a time in our history when climate change demands that we move to plan to mitigate, adapt, and live through a rapidly warming planet, we cannot allow these horrific forms of inequality to walk with us into an uncertain future. As we are experiencing in the work of the Durban Coalition, hope can be found in the pragmatic actions of working together across difference. Hope is a doing word. It's a form of collective action. Hope can be found too in our refusal to be divided by divisive rhetorics that politicians use, in our refusal to unravel into small splinter groups of self-interest, in our refusal to become polarized and give up on each other, in our refusal to move outside Addington Hospital. Thank you, Crispin. There is much work to be done in making our country a democracy that works for all, as there is much work to be done in finding ways to live through climate change with the least harm to all. And it's this work that the Durban Coalition looks forward to doing with you, starting in this beautiful metropolis of eThekwini. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Kira, for those inspiring words that we must hold on to hope. Hope is an action word It's not just something that we dream about. It's an action word, and there are many of us here in this room that are living out that hope and helping restore hope in other people too. Comrade Liz is another one with her wonderful project there. So, yes, would anybody like to ask some questions about this project that we've been involved in? The People's Plan for Housing at a time of climate change. Very vital project.
Thank you, folks. Salim Castle, membership number 082. So I won't forget. Okay, I'll talk a bit louder. Last AGM, there was Comrades Spoo Sikode from Apashani that was here. So Habitat for Humanity and housing is quite a concern for people staying in Jandoro's informal housing. Many of those activists from Apashana and Jandoro were assassinated and killed. So I'm not even sure if Comrades Spoo Sikode is still alive or not, or he passed on.
Comrade Spoo is very much alive and very much active with us in the Durban Coalition, but also very active in Durban, and has had a very interesting few weeks. They've been challenged.
Perhaps you already know, because ACM actually sent a message of support to Abashwali Basim Jandolo recently, as did many members of the Durban Coalition. You may have seen this in the news, but Operation Dadula, who has a very nationalistic, xenophobic, rather fascist, I think we can call it that for what it is, agenda, and had started to prevent people viewed as foreign from entering into healthcare facilities, but then had sent letters to SERI, who's the Socio-Economic Rights Institute, and the South African Human Rights Commission, to say that they were going to march on NGOs that they called unpatriotic, because they had taken on cases that they said were serving foreign nationals. So, in fact, what Abashwali did, I really think is inspirational to us all, and it is also a way of taking action to show hope. It was quite inspiring. Their leadership went up to Johannesburg, they mobilized their branches in Johannesburg, and they did first try and reach out to Operation Dadula to convince them not to take this particular form of action. But when they couldn't reach them, they created a human shield that far outnumbered the marchers. Peaceful, but just a clear message. This is not what all South Africans stand for. And when it comes from Abashwali Basim Jandolo, that is a very powerful message, because they represent a group that is very marginalized in our country. So yeah, the strong leadership from them.
As an ex-health practitioner, I worked for the government health department in pathology. And if foreign nationals are prevented from going to hospital or going to try to get some help when there's a health problem, it's going to spread. You know, viruses and bacteria don't care whether you're a foreign national or a national. So we have to stand up for those people and not allow this to go on, because the next thing is they're going to stop the school children from going, and then the school children don't get vaccinated and they don't get health care when they need it, and that's how we're going to get pandemics. And the COVID-19 was a viral pandemic, and all the new pandemics are going to be viral, I promise you. I was the first virologist in Durban, so I know about that, and we cannot allow it. So, stand up.
Thank you.
So we once more thank you for being here today, and for the vital role that she's played in the Secretariat of the Durban Coalition in the development of the People's Plan to Housing at a time of climate emergency. So now I'm going to move on to giving my report as chair of the Active Citizens Movement at the EXCO Committee. And I'd like to just firstly say, that certainly a role like mine is collaborative one again. That wherever possible, we as an EXCO, we work as a team, we try to make decisions collectively. Fortunately, we have social media and so on to help us. So I'd like to congratulate the EXCO team, they've been great. In the last 2 years, round of applause. Thank you. In the last 2 years, the Active Citizens Movement, as a non-party political civil society movement, has continued to uphold the legacy of those who fought for human rights and the dignity of the most vulnerable in South Africa. At our present time of extreme climate disasters, rising gender-based violence and high levels of corruption, which undermine the values of our constitutional democracy and the rule of law, it is vitally important that we form bonds of social solidarity and collaboration with all those who uphold these values, regardless of the forces who try to divide us. In this regard, I pay tribute to those who are ACM founding patrons and those stalwarts in our struggle against apartheid and for freedom and democracy who continue to guide our efforts as ACM towards a more just society, including those present at our BGM. For example, we have Judge Tumba Pule here, we have Comrade Coral Vinson, and others. Any other patrons here? Crispin Henson, of course, who is also a patron of ACM. Oh yes, and online patrons as well, such as Comrade Yusuf Vada. Yes, but Comrade Ela was one of those who was a founding member of ACM, but she's now stepped down as patron because of her other duties. So, I pay tribute to our ACM Exco members and their efforts for a more just society over the past 2 years during this time of political turmoil. That of the general election, rampant corruption, gender-based violence and rising levels of crime, and the exploitation of our environmental resources and the climate emergency, which will just get worse. Here I'd like to pay tribute also to Comrade John Pillay and others in Phoenix, resisting the exploitation and appropriation of the playing fields for their soccer tournaments, for the work that they do with the youth there. I thank all our ACM members and supporters, particularly our community activists who show a heart of compassion for the most vulnerable. In this time of climate emergency, infrastructure is breaking down due to neglect, misuse of funds, criminal cartels, and those identified as abusing political power for self-gain and communal resources for self-profit, such as those playing fields in Phoenix. In ACM, we continue to praise civil servants of integrity and highlight the dire need for the protection of whistleblowers in order to convict those who are guilty, including those responsible for ordering the tragic assassination of Babita Deokrin on the 23rd of August 2021, and the environmental activist Vigilia Changase on 22nd of October 2020, as well as the 24 fallen comrades from Abashali Basin Jondolo, who all opposed corruption and authoritarian nationalism, and who fought for human dignity, democracy, and the upholding of human rights. The slow rising waters of neo-fascism is being played out in identity politics used by reactionary forces that are easily manipulated, such as we've seen in Operation Kadula. Populist leaders find their feet in an angry population that sees the government as failing. And believe me, there are also international forces that don't want strong governments. They want a weak government. And they find social media an easy tool to use in manipulating this anger. Thanks to all for taking a stand against this, especially Abashali Basin Jondolo and Comrade Crispin Henson, one of our ASEAN patrons, in the blocking of people from using our health facilities, as we've just heard. International global capital, with its economic philosophy of neoliberalism, that is the sink or swim economy, is stronger than many a government. Increasing public debt undermines good governance of water, energy, land, and sea. And there are many of us here who have experienced water cuts for lengths of time, ongoing, continuous water cuts, and even electricity cuts. This means, as ACM, we are internationalists in our struggle for human and environmental rights. It is the industrial military machine that is the cause of the genocide in Gaza, the war in Ukraine, and the scramble for the mining wealth of Congo, and the disastrous conflict going on in northern Mozambique at the moment, the fossil fuels in southern Sudan. We need an urgent transition to a just green economy and collectively work towards food sovereignty and the autonomy of decision making. In this, we are members of the Climate Charter Justice Movement, and we also participate in actions of solidarity for the rights of Palestinian people. In the spirit of Tambo, Mandela, Lutuli, Gandhi, we will never get used to the use of violence against those who oppose discrimination and the kind of assault on human dignity. Our land belongs to all who live in it and is the heritage that we pass on to our children. Our land is not just a mining dump or a rubbish tip. Our people are not there to scrape a living off scraps. Our children need a land which feeds our spirit as well as our bodies. Space to play, in other words. They need a place where community is formed, where empathy for all life on earth is shaped, and social bonds are formed beyond family, gender, religious, or ethnic identity. The Active Citizens Movement wishes to show a more human face to the world, in the words of Steve Biko, not a more fearful face. And that's where we need to stand on hope, as Kira outlined. I think the other civil society organizations or people with whom we work or support need a special thanks, including our fellow members of the Durban Coalition, Defend Our Democracy, and the Climate Charter Justice Movement. The Dennis Hurley Centre is another one that we work with. And I especially thank all our whistleblowers, their families, and any others. Through this DGM, we honour each of the comrades and friends with whom we work. What we can't do alone, we can do together. Collectively, we commit to carrying the struggle forward to honour the humanity of each person in an increasingly polarised world where the dignity of all is not respected, where deaths are ignored or brushed over, and land, wealth and power is not fairly shared. Through this BGM, we can commit once again for the next 2 years as ACM to speaking truth to power in our common struggle for social, environmental, and gender justice. Thank you very much. I now call on the Secretary, Yashika Adia.
The dad of our chairperson, Professor Bill Ramsden, and a very valued member of ACM, Mike Saneka, who is the husband of our chairperson, Nora. So can I please ask that we take a moment to please remember them and many others who are not with us today. Thank you. 2 years, the Executive Committee of ACM has held regular meetings where we've addressed our organizational matters, the work that we're doing. We addressed report backs from the subcommittees on their projects, and where we got involved in the preparation for events that we held during the term. Some of the key initiatives during this time has been a Human Rights Day event, which we held on the 21st of March 2024 at the Blue Waters Hotel. Our guest speaker at that event was Asha Ramgovan from the Human Rights Development Initiative. She discussed the topic Reflections on Human Rights in South Africa. Our ACM youth held a panel discussion on that day as well, which was hosted by the organization called Zero Waste Durban. and they had a very vibrant discussion around the intersection of environmental and ocean justice and human rights, creating a just future for all. In 2024, on Women's Day, on the 9th of August, we held a Women's Day event, which was addressed by Cookie Edwards as our guest speaker, and she discussed the scourge of gender-based violence in KZN. The program also included messages from Refugee Social Services, Lifeline, and Al-Anon, and we also had an artistic display by Ingrid Adams and music by Eddie. So both events were well received and attended by members and supporters in large numbers. The discussions were all very vibrant and speakers provided valuable insight. ACM commemorated the 3rd anniversary of Babita Deokaran's assassination on the 23rd August 2024 with a public screening of the documentary Silenced, which I think many of you joined us in that. The movie Silenced, Why Babita Deokaran Was Murdered. We were privileged to have had Jeff Wicks with us at that event, which was attended by approximately 500 people. And the guests also included a large number of the family of Babita and her friends. They were present with us. So that was held in tribute to Babita's honesty, integrity, and courage in exposing corruption. So ACM thanks all participants and our partners, including Jeff Wicks, who produced the documentary, and the Avalon Group CEO Amy Musa, and the Cine Centre Suncoast team. We also last year on the 8th December 2024 at this venue commemorated Anti-Corruption Day with the theme Babita's Long Walk for Justice. This event highlighted the plight of whistleblowers and honoured Babita Deokaran. We included on that day a placard demonstration outside this venue, which was followed by a discussion attended by key figures, which included the SCOPA chairperson, Songezo Zibi, the Hawks head, Lieutenant General Lebea, the Deputy Director General from the Office of the KZN Premier, Spoon Gubani, Cynthia Stimple from the Whistleblower House, Ali Gule from ARTA, and human rights activist Andy Chunya, and other activists as well. Here too, the family and friends of Babita attended in large numbers. This event was an important step towards amplifying calls for transparency, accountability, and justice for those who risk their lives to expose corruption in South Africa. Also last year, ACM launched a voter education guide on the 27th April 2024 on Freedom Day at the Blue Waters Hotel, and that was to assist voters prior to the election. Judge Thaya Pillay from the Independent Electoral Commission was our guest speaker, and that was also a very important discussion with many questions and concerns that was raised about the voting process, because I think you'll remember that that election had a very long ballot with somewhat different from the previous election. So that was preparing people for the election. Also, just to mention that last year, I, as a General Secretary, attended on behalf of ACM a course on social behavior change community on an anti-corruption incubator. It was in Johannesburg, hosted by the University of Wits, the Department of Public Health, together with Enhancing Accountability and the Ethics Institute. Pops Ramprasad and others also attended a course that was funded by the EU and Enhancing Accountability Technical Assistance Facility in partnership with Open Up. This program builds civil society capacity to use data in anti-corruption work, and a team comprising of Congressan Governor Cynthia Stimple, Andy Chunya, Kirsten Pearson, Coogan Pillay and Pops has developed a prototype tool called KleptoCal to estimate the social cost of corruption. This project is still a work in progress, and I think if you have any questions, Pops will be coming up soon if you want to discuss that further. ACM has also led support to the Palestinian people in an ongoing collaboration with the Palestine Support Forum. Our EXCO member Lubna Nadvi has led this initiative, and many of our members and supporters participate in the demonstrations and events which are regularly held. So further to my report, if for those of you who may have looked at it online, we have a report from our youth subcommittee, the whistleblower subcommittee. The head of our youth subcommittee is Akhil Mahdi. The head of our whistleblower subcommittee is Pops Ramprasad. I represent ACM on the Durban Coalition as part of the steering committee. And our chairperson, Nora, coordinates the Gender Justice Subcommittee. Delwyn Pillay coordinates our Environmental Justice Subcommittee. And Ashok Chandika, the Fundraising Subcom. So I'd like to quickly ask all of them to come up onto the stage with the other mic, please. With the other mic. And we will have a quick interactive session where they will tell us a little bit about their work. And we've chosen to do it in this way so that you don't have to have me reading out about their work. Let us hear it from them, and you can ask them some questions. So I'll start with our youth, because I think he's very busy doing our online link here. So Akhil Mahdi, you've been very busy as part of our youth subcom, and you want to tell us a little bit about maybe some of the challenges you've had and some of the key aspects of the youth subcommittee's work.
Thanks. Yes, I'm very busy, and I promise I am a youth, although I look quite old. You guys hear me better now? Is it on now? Okay. Now everyone can hear me. Okay. So, I'm in charge of the youth subcommittee, and so Yeshika kind of alluded to some of the work we do, but over the last 2 years, we've been really focused on environmental justice. So we participated in several environmental justice projects, including cleanups and awareness campaigns, and we had webinars hosting international youth activists. So we've obviously elevated the voices of international activists, but we've also been involved in elevating our own voices. So we've participated and given our inputs on pieces for Freedom Day and Youth Day in the Post newspaper. We also focused on education and awareness around voting and help support the broader ACM initiatives, including the Women's Day event and the Forever Legends event, which I'm sure many of you attended. And I think one of the big changes is ACM is now part of something called the National Youth Coalition. It's nice to see Nishan Bolton here, because the Emma Kakarada Foundation is one of the major players in the National Youth Coalition. So the National Youth Coalition is a coalition of young people, and I sit on the steering committee of the National Youth Coalition. We do organizational activities there to promote youth awareness and deal with youth issues. And I think the most significant internal milestone that ACM has achieved is this EXCO that decided leaving us. We had great youth representation. 4 young people have been participated in the executive committee over the last 2 years. I think that covers the youth.
Thank you, Akhil, and well done. Is there any questions for Akhil? Any inspirational messages for these young people? Thank you. Yes, Laura.
I'd like to invite any young people who would like to come and learn how to grow vegetables organically to come to my workshop on the 1st of August. But RSVP quickly. Because
invitation. It's only for the young people, Carl.
I want everybody to come, as long as they teach others.
Sure.
Hi, thanks. I just have a question of how are you mobilizing youth? What attracts them to ACM? Do you know what I mean? So that we know also what works with other youth that we
Yeah, that's kind of a tricky question because it is something we struggle with. I think in the ACM Youth Subcommittee we have a lot of dedicated but perhaps not as many young people as I'd like to see. But I do find that the young people who are active are very interested in environmental justice initiatives, anything to do with the environment. If you bring them along or show them about that, then they show a lot of interest. I think that's one area that young people are super interested in.
Thank you, Akil, and thanks for those questions. So my next report is from the Whistleblower Subcommittee, Pop's Ramprasad. So Pop's report is long because there's been a lot of work we have been doing as ACM on the matter of whistleblower support. So I think, but I'll start by asking Pops that I think he's got some grey hairs in his dealings with NACAC. So perhaps, Pops, you would want to start by discussing some of your challenges and the experience of ACM has had in our interaction with NACAC, and he is a member of the committee as well.
Yeah, thank you. I take all the credit, so give me a hand for that. But really, we're a subcommittee, and my co-conspirator is Aslam Mayed. So I want to hand over to Aslam first to give a few words. And the other key player amongst the whistleblowers as well, other key players is our patron, Professor Yusuf Bauda. And then we have many whistleblowers who have played a very effective role in the subcommittee. So I'll hand over to to Aslam, and then I will say a few words.
I'd rather let you go first and I'll add up, but I just want to say, Nishan.
come forward.
This is a meta
No, I'll let Pops go and I'll follow after him. But I just want to mention that I'm glad that Nishan is in the youth league.
Okay, thank you very much. It's one of the dynamic subcommittees in ACM, but working that subcommittee can give you sleepless nights. We are not popular, ACM is not popular with government, with the National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council, and we hear that the chairperson has been appointed the acting Minister of Police. So let me give some background around that. We nominated a councillor to NACAC who was approved by the President, and then we were invited to participate in the whistleblower reference group, and I represented ACM. I attended a meeting and made some inputs around June 2024, and everything went quiet. So when we began to ask questions, in fact it was 2023, they said, no, we can't give you feedback, it's so we report to the President. And I'm saying that's nonsense, because I want to see whether our inputs were included in the advisory to the President. Right? So we don't know what was included there, and then the advisories are sitting with the President, and those advisories include interim support for whistleblowers, something which is absolutely necessary. When you talk to the whistleblowers daily, in fact, while I was sitting in the back, I received a message from a whistleblower, need help urgently. You will know the reason why corruption is a problem in this country, because our whistleblowers are not supported and protected by government. So here we have a president who's sitting with advisories for interim measures while the legislation goes through the process, and nothing has happened. So we asked the question to NACAC, and they brush us off, and then there's some bilaterals. They want to have one-on-one with Aslam, and Aslam tells the person, sorry, we're an organization, there's no bilateral. You meet us as an organization. So there's a standoff between us and NACAC. Notwithstanding that, we have a strong team which is ready to make oral presentation as soon as the bill is released for public comment. So that is going to be made up of many whistleblowers who participate with us and some of the activists. We also work with Jeff Wicks, and you may want to note this down. On the 22nd of August, his book Shadow State will be launched officially. That's one day before Babita's 4th death anniversary. at Kilani Mall, at the cinema there, and thanks to Mr. A.B. Musa, who's provided the facility. And the Durban one is scheduled for 3rd of September at Suncoast. It will be limited space, so the Book Shadow State will be launched there, and many of the articles which are on, you see on News 24, around CAT, etc., will feature in the book. And hopefully, by then, through the Presidential Judicial Commission of Inquiry, we will find some headway as to who the mastermind or masterminds are who assassinated, who gave the instruction for Babita to be assassinated. Okay, so we are hopeful. It's going to be a very busy year for us. The other busy thing for us will be, and it's going to be spoken about later, is the national dialogue. But a lot of issues around corruption will feature, I'm sure, in the national dialogue, or however it finally manifests itself. But I'm very grateful that the team that we have, a lot of letters have been sent. For example, you found Minister Gwede Mantashe appointing the chairperson of PRASA to the board of the new South African Petroleum Company. Now here you have PRASA that is in deep crisis, corruption. And Gwede Mantashe, Minister Mantashe, in his wisdom, finds her to be the most suitable person amongst millions of South Africans to put on the board of this new South African National Petroleum Company. We find that totally absurd. We have written to him, he has not responded yet. We have written to Robben Island Museum, to the chairperson, Professor Sats Cooper, asking him what processes they have in place to protect whistleblower, because a whistleblower there was facing retaliation for speaking out against the rickety boats which they have paid 90 million rand for. Believe it or not, SATS hasn't come back to us. So we're waiting. We wrote to the Eastern Cape Department of Health because there's a crisis at Livingston Hospital. There's no doctors. And we have written to them asking them what they are doing. And again, it was due to a whistleblower and they were facing retaliation. We're still waiting for them to come. Then we have the situation of where the Kokta CFO in KwaZulu-Natal suddenly resigned to abscond from a disciplinary hearing, and suddenly surfaced a couple of months later as the CFO of the Department of Education. So we wrote to the Premier, we wrote to the Public Protector, we wrote to the Public Service Commission and the MEC, who's currently has been asked by the Premier to explain the allegations of corruption against him. And we're still waiting for feedback from them. So when you are fighting corruption, people will ignore you. But I want to tell them very loud and clearly, ACM, as small as we are, we're not going to buckle down. We're not going to keep quiet about it. And we are going to call them out. Thank you.
Any questions regarding our...
Okay, I just want to mention that ACN, really the whistleblowers initially were all working on their own, feeling, as was mentioned in the previous talk by the guest speaker, they were feeling abandoned. Nobody was there. ACN, what it's done is to bring them all together. And Pops has been instrumental. I mean, everybody knows him. So bringing the whistleblowers together, and then you had Whistleblower's House and so on. So that little start that ACM made and followed on by Pops has really galvanized and mobilized whistleblowers into a force, which I think that's one achievement that ACM has done. Pops mentioned the NACAC. Whistleblowers want physical protection, they want their jobs back. Financially, they've been growing, health has been growing, and we made various recommendations to NACAC on real things, real interim measures that they needed. And unfortunately, the interim measures that were given to the President are that the President must, in his weekly newsletter, tell the South African public how important whistleblowers are. Then he must tell his cabinet ministers how important whistleblowers are. All ridiculous things like that. And possibly, I think the bullet point of all was that for those who've lost their lives, the President must give posthumous awards to them. None of this helps whistleblowers at all. So, I mean, that was really, really disappointing. I think the final recommendations that are going for legislative changes are much better. But again, when and if legislation is passed, in the meantime, it's a real crisis, and that's been totally ignored. And that was one of the issues that ACM had with NATO. Regarding the Mkhwanazi, he's no dandy, but he supports the task team, which has done pretty awful work themselves. A lot of this thing is you go in there and do something and arrest people, which then fizzle out, but it seems like you're doing something and you get, that's one of the problems with the task team. But what's the good thing that's been done is that he's brought, they all rattle on each other. It's brought into the fore, and government simply cannot ignore it anymore. And you're finding these suspensions and so on taking place. So I think that's one good thing that's come out of this recent, very fancy press release. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for us now, Pops, regarding our anti-corruption and whistleblower support? Thank you. Assembly? Okay. Thank you. So the third report in our is the Durban Coalition report, which, as I said earlier, I represent ACM on. I think our guest speaker has covered in more detail the work of the coalition, and it's in our Secretariat report. It's been shared online. So if there's any questions, you may ask, but I think that has been covered. That's okay, there's no objection, we'll move on. The next report is the Environmental Justice Subcommittee, which Delwyn Pillay has coordinates and has been very active in. So, Delwyn, wants to tell us?
Thanks, actually. So, with the running theme, like a lot of our workshops now. Is that better? So, a lot of our events and workshops being collaborative. There's an African program. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so that's sort of like our theme. And I have to say big thanks to the Center of Cooperative and Alternative Policies. So they wonderfully put toolkits for activists that we can use and we can engage and build up. So it's around the commons, right? So we know the issues. Water being privatized, and we have to pay for that. So the idea is to repay the commons, right? So there's three toolkits. The first one is around seeds, and there's a whole lot of issues around seeds I can go into. Corporates taking ownership of seeds, so if you plant it and they find that it's their seed, then you have to pay them because we know seed is God-given, right? And seeds is about abundance, about sharing. So the first toolkit touches on that. And you put the seed in the ground, you need land, right? And who has access to land? And so the other toolkit touches on land and water. And you put the seed in the ground, you need to water it, and especially Durban. Our water laws is very well documented. And those that turn on the taps and those that don't, and especially Durban now, because water is becoming a scarcity, we're having people water hoarding. And so those are hoarding water, and then who's not having access to that. So around these toolkits, we're creating forums. And these forums actually feed into these toolkits as well. So it's very building information from below. And it's empowering because they actually have knowledge. And it's not like politicians that come in and they say, this is the legislation that you must vote for. I'm sorry, you came from Joburg. How do you know what we here in KZN know? We know exactly what we need, and we also know the solutions. So this is empowering communities to touch in the knowledge that they may sometimes overlook because they may not have degrees or whatever, but it's really practical knowledge that can be applied on the ground. It's not a technocratic solution and pathways, especially now facing AI and all that. So going forward, we're going to build these forums, and around the forums will be food hubs. So when the shit hits the fan, and which is more often than not, people can go to these hubs and be a source of seeds, tools, and knowledge as well. And the seaway, we need to go down there at the bluff, and it needs to be in, take ownership of our food and the commons. Yeah.
Thank you, Darren. Very active member of the expo. Any questions or comments for Darren? So we'll move on to our fundraising report with Ashok, who's been coordinating getting in some funds for the ACM.
Good afternoon all. My work is far less complicated, but I think it's important. And the importance of fundraising is for the work of ACM to continue. From time to time, you get a bit of fatigue or despondency setting in because we are up against some huge challenges. I think after apartheid, corruption has become the biggest mountain that we face, and we have to overcome it if we are going to succeed as a society and a country. And to that end, ACM wants to be that voice, a critical voice in every respect of the word. We call out corruption wherever we see it, and sometimes people accuse us of trying to be holier than thou. We are not a political party. We don't aim to have a mass base. We don't aim to contest elections at any time in the future. But we aim to be a voice. Now, in order to keep that voice alive, we need funds for our programs, and the work has been explained by the various people who've spoken and those who are still to speak. But very crucial when it comes to fundraising is that we don't want to be held to account by anyone with nefarious agendas, etc. We want to be independent, and that is why we seek to do most of our fundraising from within our own networks, our own membership, our own fraternal organizations and well-wishers and supporters. So to this end, we had a fundraiser at the Barnyard last year in October 19. We booked about half of the venue, and it was a sold-out function, and we raised approximately 30 to 35,000 rand. There's a small poster in the back. We plan to do a bigger and better one this year, so I am going to give you a 1-minute promotional blurb. On the 31st of August, which is a Sunday at 2 p.m. we look forward to seeing all of you there. Tickets are 240 rand per person, and you can give them your name and contact details at the back, and then they will tell you how to go about reserving your ticket, but it's also available on our WhatsApp groups and on social media. So basically, we aim to have over 325 tickets sold, and just on that note, and I think recently there was an article in one of the newspapers about older people giving way to the youth. We have some young people around, so I'm giving notice now that this is the last fundraiser that I'm going to convene. I think the Barnyard is a good idea. It helps us to network, it helps socialize. It helps us to fund our programs for the next 12 to 24 months. But this is the last one that I'm going to do. So I will help the future fundraiser, and I hope that someone else is going to step in as convener. But just for now, I look forward to seeing you all on the 31st. It's Absolute 80s, I think it's called. It's so music from back in the day. And this year, we are definitely going to have an after party. So as I said in my bio, you know, we can do our singing, we can do our jolls. So we look forward to having you all. It's at the Barnyard Suncoast, 31st August, 2 p.m. Thank you for your support.
Any questions? I think all the info is there. Now call upon Nora, who will quickly give us an overview of our Gender Justice Committee.
Basically, actually, I have spoken about our Women's Day event last year, and I want to say that we also need to look forward as to what we're going to do. We're not going to have an SCM Women's Day event. My energies are going into an ECD conference, which will be held at Edward Campus on the 23rd of August, to which we will invite organizations that are working around gender-based violence. So the Advice Desk and Lifeline, Childline, all those organizations who provide the psychosocial support. Why? Because ECD practitioners, teachers, are working with the most vulnerable section of our society, which is the children. And one of our patrons was Dr. Jerry Kavadia, who had that heart as a pediatrician for young children. And I also, urge you all to support the KZN Children's Hospital, which was one of his legacies, which he's left us, we the people, to protect. It was the people of Durban that fundraised for that hospital, and it is we the people who will protect that legacy going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Nora. Is there any comments or questions for Nora? Thanks. Just regarding the fundraising, I just wanted to add to Ashok's report to say that all ACM members are volunteers. None of us are paid. There's no paid personnel in the organization. And that the funds that we do raise in our fundraisers, it goes towards the work we do, the relief work. We help other organizations at times when there's floods or disasters, etc. None of that work is going towards our members. Just to clarify that, thank you. And then finally, very, very active member that we've all seen on the streets our Fridays for Palestine is Dr. Lubna Nadvi, who works endlessly and tirelessly on the Palestinian cause. So she heads the Palestine Support Forum, and we'd like her to tell us a little bit about her work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashika. So I'm going to speak about two things. One is the Palestine work that we do within the ACM. All of our EXCO members are very committed to the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. I'm a member of a structure called the Palestine Solidarity Forum, as well as South African Palestine Movement, and that those two organizations are devoted just to doing Palestine solidarity, and of course they partner with the ACM on all of the projects that we do. So every Friday there's a picket in different parts of the city, solidarity. The last one we did was we are now banging pots because the starvation that, if you've been following what's happening in the news, it's really dire. So we have, taken the campaigns that we're running up to another level. We've sent letters to all of our, to the stores, the local supermarkets and so on, asking them to remove
products that support Israel, like Coca-Cola, Clover, Nestle, and so on. And we have said that we will come and help you remove them if you don't remove them yourself. So, we're taking the campaign up a notch. And so we invite everyone who's here to support the boycott campaign. Don't buy those products, Coke, Clover, and so on. You'll see in the catering today there's no Coke on the table. So if you want to know more about the boycott and what to actually boycott, please feel free to come and speak to me. Then on the other issue, there's also a subcommittee called the Local Government Subcommittee, which unfortunately I didn't have time to send a report to Yash because I was traveling, but I just want to say two things about it. One is that in 2024, when we had our national elections, we had produced a voter's guide, which actually was quite well received, and it's something that can be used at every election, and we feel that that's really been very good in terms of providing guidance to our membership and of course broadly on how to go about voting, what to look out for, and so on. And we've been monitoring, of course, what's happening at local government level here in the province and nationally. And I hope that we can actually grow that particular subcommittee. I invite members to join in and participate, and feel free to come speak to me about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Luca. And thank you to all our subcom reps for their inputs. Any questions for Luca before this? Aslam?
Yeah, no, it's not really a question, but I just want to mention that she talked of the Friday pickets, and Raj Badal has been faithfully attending virtually every single one, and he mentioned should be made of that.
Yes, absolutely. We have had our supporters from the different organizations, so thank you to Raj and to everyone who has attended. Raj, of course, represents NADAL, the National Democratic Lawyers Association, and we thank all the organizational representatives that come diligently every Friday to support.
Since I have my name, I'm looking forward to a resolution later, perhaps.
Yes, thank you, Raj. We will. So thank you everybody for contributing to my Secretariat report. As the outgoing General Secretary of ACM, I just want to place my gratitude to the executive team and the patrons for the support and cooperation over the last 2 years. My work in ACM has spanned almost 10 years since the first initiatives began to discuss the formation of this organization. During this time, I've had the opportunity to collaborate with some of KZN's and South Africa's most committed activists, intellectuals, and civil society organizations, and it's been a privilege to have been able to share that knowledge, work on campaigns, and the camaraderie that has been felt. So I have made a decision to step down from the executive, but will continue my activism as a very active member, and I look forward to sharing my skills to the younger members who we so desperately need to bring into the organization, and hope to build a new generation of young activists and continue to be the voice of ordinary citizens. So thank you very much, everyone.
A great thank you to Yashika, Comrade Yashika, for all the work that she's put into ACM over the past 10 years. There's a question or a comment?
Sorry, I just want to say that this is indeed a very big loss to ACM, because Mrs. Yashika has really played a pivotal role and really supported assisted ACM in many respects. So I know the choice is hers, and that we cannot compel that really is her choice, but I would want her to reconsider, because it's really going to be a real loss to the organization.
No, she's not a loss to the organization. She's going to continue as a very active member of ACM.
I also...
We will go
I think she raises the important point of the youth, and I think we stand by that very firmly, that we're getting older and we need the youth to take over. So we really look forward to all the assistance in mentoring and uplifting the youth. I thank you for that.
Thank you for your confidence in me, here. I certainly will remain and be active. I also also will still be ACM's representative on the Durban Coalition. I've just over the last 2 days have had so much, which I know I have to take on to Monday because I had to go through the BGM today. So there's a large amount of initiatives I'm still very much part of. I think this just gives me a little bit of space to focus on a bigger variety of community-based work, which I'm also involved in outside ACM too. So thank you if you can please appreciate that. Yeah, I'm a triplet mother as well.
I just want to mention that Fauzia's views will be seconded by Maria Cassidy from Maritzburg.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Maria Cassidy, for the 5 o'clock confidence, 5 o'clock in the morning confidence in me. So our treasurer's report is next, if you can move on. What about the Congress of Cash? No pressure.
Thanks, Dora. Good afternoon, everybody. We're here to present the Treasurer's report. It's relatively straightforward. I think the previous speakers have alluded to the nature of our work. We have these projects and we put them out on the ACM chat group. And I tell you, the responses are fantastic in terms of the goodwill and the generosity of our members and supporters. So in terms of the Treasurer's report, we're currently reporting on the financial year ended February 2024. That's what this BGM would look at, because that set of financial statements have been audited by Faisal Suleiman and Associates. That set of financial statements would be included in our BGM pack. Anybody wants to have a look at them or peruse over them, they are available at any time. I must say a huge thanks to our donors and sponsors for the generous contributions that has enabled our important work. We're extremely grateful that they acknowledge and support our endeavors. Also, in terms of besides the independent individuals, there are also businesses that supported us as well. And some of these businesses have been with us from the early days of our struggle. They still kept an association with us up till now. And some of the functions we have, they raise their hand, they phone us, we pop and various other people. We provide this and we provide that, those items. And we're extremely grateful to those businesses that have enabled us to do our work and not dig into our own purses at some stage. In terms of the financial year ended February 2024, our donation income was 46,400 Rand. And most of the 2024 funding was used in financial year 2025, which obviously I'll discuss in the next BGM if I'm elected. We've embarked on the annual fundraising drive. I think I short spoke about this. It'll be at the barnyard. And these have produced yielded great results and returns. These proceeds are critical, as I short alluded to. This enables us to fund and fuel our growth and activity that we embark on. And at the back of our we urge all again, before you leave, please indicate whether you will be attending to Shakira or Sabria on the back. The good news is that in 2024 we've now successfully registered for NPO and PBO registration, and we are in a position of issuing 18A certificates to those people that require, if you're donating substantial amounts of money. As at the end of 28th February 2024, our bank balance on our current account is 106,828 Rand. That's it from my side. I know we're hard pressed sometimes. Thank you, everybody.
I'd now like to ask if there are any questions.
Yeah, I just want to comment. It's not seen in the financial statement, but the event that we had at Suncoast, no money exchange hand, but it cost Suncoast, Baby Musa, about 86,000 Rand, right? So we need to thank the Avalon Group for their generous contribution, and there will be another 2 that's coming up. And we also got snacks provided later from Zora's meat market in Yemen. And also there's no funds that are exchanging hands, it's a donation. So we also receive this kind of donations from, for t-shirts, for printing, snacks, Amy Musa. So we want to make that transparent to this BGA. May not be in the financial statement, but those are some of the initiatives or sponsors that help us through our work. Thank you.
Yes, I think must be in the minutes, and so that we can acknowledge them. There are a lot of hidden costs that are not visible because they form donations and sponsorships. Right, and now any other questions or comments? But a very big thank you to all the student ACM who have supported us. We don't have membership fees, so we're a voluntary organisation. We have no paid workers either, no office. All that are hidden costs. Right, so now we're moving on to the election of office bearers. Can our election officer come forward, please? Comrade Brad Vidal, can you come forward as election officer? And all those who are members of ACM are sitting this side, those that are not members, that side. So if you're not a member, you cannot vote.
Yeah, but it's already inside.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be assisted in this matter by Senior Attorney Debbie Samuels and Young Attorney Jack Ashton from South Coast. Before I start the process, may I especially recognize Judge Tambapule, who's really a stalwart of our organization, who's assisted us over many, many years. Sean Bolton, also thank you for attending. Anyway, you're attending, especially for this, thank you. Of course, and Kira. And other stalwarts. I've got good news and not so good news. Good news is that the office bearers are all elected unopposed. The bad news is that everybody nominated or seconded by the Nalpastam family will be thrown out of this place. But seriously, as far as the office bearers are concerned, and this has been circulated to everybody, so I'm not going to read every single thing. Dr. Nora Saneka has been elected unopposed as the chairperson. And please, except for Nora, everybody else, please stand up and then look around so everybody know who you are. Akhil Mahdi has been elected unopposed as deputy chairperson. Matt Jackson, the young man on the left there. General Secretary Irene Finn has been elected unopposed. My boss just told me to mention the proposal secretary. I'll do that just in a minute. Shakira Dawood, Deputy General Secretary. Of course, Prakash Naik was here earlier, so all of us know. For formality's sake, Nora was nominated by Kalivani Ramkilamu and seconded by Mariam Kassanchi. Akhil was proposed by Sabria Mali, some relative there, I think, and seconded by Yashika Bhatia. Irene Finn was nominated by Pops Ramsar and seconded by Rags Ramsar. I think we should ask all the seconders not to stand up. Shakira Dawood was nominated by Mariam Natarawa, and seconded by Molly Naidu. And Prakash was nominated by Rags Ramprasad. Guess anybody else who seconded? Pops Ramprasad. So can we give all of them a round of applause? Right, everybody come up to the stage so I can pause. Comrades, this is your new office bearers. Let's give them a round of applause. I'm going to give them a long story about how much work they're going to do. I think Yashika might have to follow it. We're not going to lose you, I know that. Chair, you can go back to your seats or you're going to stand here. Okay, fine. So we're now going back to the election of the exco. Am I right? Right. There are 8 nominees and there are 5 positions. The nominees are Sidek or Sidek, Stemliso Igliza, proposed by Pops Ramprasad, seconded by Rags Ramprasad. Please, can you stand up so we can actually see who you are? So that's the Iso. Right, so we're going to confuse it with you. Dr. Lubna Nantli. Do we really need to ask her to come? Right. Proposed by Sabri Amani and seconded by Yashika Pandya. Pops Ramprasad. Proposed by Jaya Kasinji and seconded by Talibani Ramkilawan. These all familiar names, right? Dr. Ashok Chandika, your fundraiser, proposed by Yusuf Bawala and seconded by Pops Ramprasad. Proposed by Vanya Ramprasad, that's it, and seconded by Yesu Rags Ramprasad. They were very passionate, Shaki was said earlier, proposed by Yashika Pandya and seconded by Prakash Naidu. Raksha said right? Online. Online, okay. If you're online, you stand up there. Proposed by Penny Play and seconded by Sivan Naidu. No, she's the Johannesburg candidate deciding in Joburg. Right. I think we distributed the CVs in the various groups. Right. So how we're going to do this is, so you want to do? Aslam Maya to say something.
Yeah, the list of candidates, they're very strong, and the polls at the moment show that I'm far behind on the thing, so I'll withdraw my candidacy.
No. Let us decide. Don't let me decide, let us decide.
Please go understand fully what's happening.
So there's 7 here, right?
I'll withdraw.
There's 7 you mentioned.
Iso, Tivet, Lubna, Pops, Ashok, Aslam, Bella, Flasha. So Aslam is insisting he's raising his hand. So can I strike you off this? Alright. So you got 7. Yes, he's here. So how we're going to do it according to Pops is this.
Co-opted for umpteen years now, and if they do want me, I'll continue to serve on Expo. But it's important that we get other people involved, we get youngsters involved, and to the same old foggies of the exco, we're not going to get youngsters involved. That's true.
So what he's saying is he doesn't want to say but he wants to be called. Conrad, I think he was joining. So we've got a bit of a challenge as far as the online. Pops, how are we going to do the online voting?
They're going to raise their hand.
Okay. So.
But our constitution also have provision for co-opting an additional 5. So I want to propose that the new EXCO consider co-opting anyone who may withdraw or who may not be elected. I think some of us are thinking about withdrawing our nomination so that we allow the new people in. So, but I want to put that to the House, and as an electoral officer, I think it's okay.
This is a slightly different suggestion, that we take the first 5 as elected and the other 3 as co-opted.
Yes, exactly.
Is there a unanimous resolution of the House?
Yes.
Okay, so the first 5 members on my list are Stembiso Teresa. Is Stella still here? Right, thank you. Driven, Naidu, Dr. Rishna Nadfi in the back, Pops Ramprasad also in the back, Dr. Ashok Chanika, and then, although people shortly withdrew, Aslam Mayat, Delvin Pillay, and Rakshnath Semnarayan are the additional co-opted members of EXCO. Thank you very much. And coalition up to the front. Take order.
Forward quickly, and then while we're up here getting the photographs taken, I'm also going to say that there are going to be refreshments at the back just now, but we still have to do the appointment of the auditor, and then I'll have my address, and then closing ceremony. So thank you very much.
Can I propose also another co-option, please? So we can do it here formally. I want to propose that Comrade Yashika Padya must be co-opted, and we can agree at this meeting. I told you ACM doesn't back down. And she should have known that. Thank you.
Comrade Prakash, if you could just stay for a minute. Comrade Prakash, we now going to do the appointment of our auditor for the next 2 years.
So Faisal Suleiman and Associates were our appointed auditors for the last 2 years. I contacted Mr. Suleiman in January. He's agreed to serve on as our auditor. So Faisal Suleiman and Associates will be the appointed auditors for ACM. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I'll just give a short address, just to say how grateful I am to everybody for coming here today and for your vote of confidence in us. As you know, we have a lot of dangerous territory to traverse the next coming year or two. We have certain challenges. We have an election coming up, for example, and we have increasing climate disasters that are looming as we are on the eastern coast of Africa. We had the tornado at Tomba last year, for example. And so this is where we need those bonds of social solidarity with each other, and we need to stand together firmly on basic principles on which this new South Africa was founded, which is the rule of law and a constitutional democracy. That is where we will be strong. And we know that we have a great heritage on which we can draw. We have heroes of the struggle that came from KwaZulu-Natal, as well as from other areas of the country, and so we build on their legacy. We also know that evil only flourishes when good people keep silent. And so this is where, we, as ACM, we are a strong voice against systematic corruption and the kind of evil that is going on. That we are not going to be complicit. I'd like to applaud Comrade Crispin and at this point say that we are standing with you, and where there are various plans which we would like to join you in combating this kind of polarization and xenophobia which affects South African nationals, not just so-called foreign nationals. Each one of us, as rooted in the soil of Africa, understands that an injury to one is an injury to all, as the old slogan went. So an injury to one, in our case here, Comrade Crispin, is an injury to all of us. And if we call on you to put your ACM2 t-shirts on and go down, as Abashali did under Joburg, and form a barricade against those fascist forces, then I know that I can count on each one of you. Thank you. We have various resolutions. There's two. There's one concerning the national dialogue, and there's also one concerning Palestine. So I call on Comrade Yashika Padia to read out the resolution. It's a draft resolution on our concerns about the national dialogue. I just want to say also that we did have the ACM Exco did have a consultative meeting with Comrade Ida Gandhi, who is one of those who have been appointed to the national dialogue.
Thank you. So the draft resolution is about our concerns about the national dialogue. It has been drafted by our ACM patron, Professor Yusuf Bada. So I'm going to read out the whole resolution. When the idea of the national dialogue was announced about a year ago, the ACMs embraced the idea, but not without reservations. See ACM discussion document on a national dialogue dated 3rd July 2024. While we welcome the initiative, we set out what we consider to be the essential features of such a dialogue. One, inclusivity in, I'll just mention the points. Inclusivity in conception and action, pro-poor bias, commitment to constitutional values of transparency, accountability, democracy, rule of law, independence, no elite compacts. When measured against these parameters, the national dialogue's 9 layers of conversation fails to address these features. 1, the conceptualization and planning have been anything but inclusive. It has been done by a small group over the past 12 months. What public consultation has taken place on these important activities? 2. Anything but transparent. Questions remain about how this planning group was selected, by whom, and why the secrecy. 3. Where was the form of the National Convention decided? The entire framework, delegate numbers, methodology, criteria for selection has been determined behind closed doors. 4. Why was NEDLAC, a structure closely aligned to government, selected to house the Secretariat, and how can the independence of the process be assured in view of this? The proposed independent citizen-led monitoring and evaluation lacks clearly defined independence, powers, or selection process. 6. While much is made of community outcomes feeding into the process, it seems that there is a predetermined agenda of a national compact and 30-year plan of action before considering National Development Plan version 2. Shouldn't the current NDP be thoroughly reviewed and its failures addressed first? And 7, is the ward-based structure as the forum for the dialogue an appropriate one, given several instances of party political contestations predominating in these community structures? What happens to the dialogue process if the councillor of a particular ward or the ward committee is aligned to a party that is not participating in the national dialogue? What are alternative ways of ensuring that the dialogue takes place in such wards? These observations do not bode well for meaningful popular participation, as it effectively marginalizes the majority of poor workers, the unemployed, social movements, NGOs, civil society organizations, and organizations of women, youth, disabled, and LGBTQIA+. For many committed activists and progressives, there's a further legitimization risk. Uncritical participation risks endorsing a flawed, top-down process that will frustrate communities and result in further alienation. We believe that a truly grassroots, citizen-led, and bottom-up process that meaningfully engages the majority of the people and is not controlled exclusively by government, business, and labor interests if possible. The issues affecting our country, inequality, poverty, food insecurity, unemployment, crime, gender violence, the climate crisis, lack of safe and proper housing, water, health, and educational facilities are all well known and well documented. What we should be talking about is why we are being failed by the stewards of our governance and how to go about fixing off these problems urgently. Citizens and civil society organizations are encouraged to engage so that this process is truly citizen-led and addresses our critical concerns. Politicians, officials, and the business sector and others must account for their failures and not allow this to become another public relations, roadshow, and photo opportunity. There cannot be meaningful dialogue without accountability. The proposed resolution goes, ACM therefore resolves 1. To condemn secrecy, demand immediate disclosure of the planning group's identities, selection criteria, and mandate. 2. Reject passive participation, refuse to legitimize the current and non-transparent structure. 3. Adopt critical engagement and constructive intervention. 3.1. Participate critically, engage strategically at ward, sectoral, online levels to voice concerns and document flaws in the process and content. 3.2. Insist on democratic practices, challenge non-transparent selection of delegates, mobilize advocacy, build civil society alliances. And 3.3, propose mass-based and community-led dialogue alternatives to the formalized and regimented formula that has been proposed. So that is what has been submitted, and I'd like to just open up for any questions, concerns, for a brief discussion on this before we decide on whether we can possibly take this discussion further if people would prefer that we talk about it, maybe ACM host an online meeting with our membership if they would like to discuss it further and to talk about it more, or the meeting can raise what other questions, suggestions that you may have now.
The sponsor, Professor Yusuf Bada, is available online.
Yes.
If anyone wants to pose some questions to him.
Yes.
So he just phoned me now, said he's available.
Yes. So he's online, he's drafted the resolution, and he's willing to answer any questions. Okay, first, do you bring in my custom and then you can maybe Akhil, how's it for online?
Comrade Ila Gandhi wants to say that she'd like, her exact comment is, can I clarify a few points made? Thanks. So Ila Gandhi said, can I clarify a few points made on the national dialogue? Besides ward-based, there will be sectoral dialogues. All sectors suggested have been included, example LGBTQI, ECD, GBV, etc.
The only thing I wanted to add was my concern is the cost. I mean, and that cost will overrun. We all know that as well.
There was somebody else had a hand up. Yes, please mention who you are, your name, and.
Thanks. I'm Jane Quinn. I'll talk this way. Yeah, thanks. I mean, I think it's very useful. I do support the idea, though, that I'd like us to have an online discussion altogether, because I think it really merits that kind of deep engagement that we can't have now. Because while there are a lot of great suggestions, for me, the thing is about how to make it citizen-led, for example, pragmatically. So how do we actually do it? And I think that if we can have a dedicated conversation about that, we have a better chance of.
Thank you, Jane. There was Logan. Sure. Do you want to mind Logan? Yes.
I think I'm quite audible.
Okay.
The suggestion I'd like to make is that once it may be inferred in the draft resolution, we must be specific about the involvement of youth in the NDP.
Thank you. Thank you, Logan. Hill, if I bring this mic there, can you respond to those comments?
Yeah, you should be able to. Well, sure. Let me just join this.
So Yusuf, I'm holding the mic here so that everybody else will hear you. So have you unmuted?
No, I'm joining here first. Let me just join.
Okay, just give a kid a moment.
Can we do a WhatsApp call? One thing in mind. With him?
We okay.
Okay.
Can you talk?
Okay, Yusuf, you can go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Greetings to everyone. I was just wondering whether any of us would like actually a chance to speak.
Can't hear.
Yes. No, I was hoping that those of us online would try to speak not be
No. Sorry, Yusuf, just a moment.
Call him on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Okay, Yusuf, we're going to do a WhatsApp call to you. And perhaps that will work better. So we're calling you on your WhatsApp. Yeah, let's try again. I hope that will be better. I'm holding the mic to the phone.
Yes.
So I just want to comment briefly. I think some of the, I agree, some of the points that have been raised by Comrade Zima, let's just say very quickly that in relation to some of the issues that have been raised, like for example, the issue of wards in sectoral representation, a couple of problems with that. The first thing is our concern about the wards is not just that the wards are being but in fact whether these are appropriate spots. Because we know that wards have been heavily politically contested, and that is not a good atmosphere environment for dialogue to take place. So that's the one point. But I think the underlying issue is that there's been no transparency about this process and how different sectors and communities have been included in the discussions. So I think this is component. I think the point that we made about youth inclusion and so on. And I agree that we need a conversation that actually goes deeper into many of the issues that are raised here, but in particular, as Jane was saying, how the citizen-led grassroots kind of process can happen. So having said that, I think the idea in this meeting was to solve this issue out and to get some kind of general direction for where we go with this. Because if we have concerns, we may not have another opportunity at a general meeting to sound out our members and to get a consensus that, look, we need to participate, yes, but we need to do it in a constructive and critical way. Because as the proposal stands, it's very top-down and it's going to result in a lot of dissatisfaction and irritation. So I think that's the idea, is to signal that we want to take this particular approach with the understanding that there's a lot more work to be done. So I'll pause there if there are any further questions.
Okay, thanks, Yusuf. I think most of you heard that. Okay, so Nishan has a question for you, Yusuf.
No, not a question.
Oh.
Just wanted to add to the discussion.
Hey?
I wanted to add comments to the. It's a comment.
Okay, he's got a comment. Yusuf, can you're listening in, hey? It's Nishan that's making a comment.
No.
Thanks. Go ahead.
So, Akhil.
No, I thought I'd just share with you. From the Katara Foundation where I work, we were in a very similar situation of not having the information, sufficient information. Although we were part of the initial group of foundations that called for this. So this morning we had a session with Phoebe Potgieter, who is one of the presidential advisors on this structure, as well as Nompen Katra, who is now the secretary of the Eminent Persons Group. And what we found there was that we didn't have the kind of information that allowed us to make an informed discussion. And I would urge you to do that before you actually adopt this. But I also think we need clarity. When we say citizens-led, what do we mean? Who are these citizens? Who will select these citizens to then start a process? The only person with authority in this country to convene this, in our view, is the president. Now, if the president has taken the initiative, and the initiative is not yet completely defined, and I think when you engage with Bila, you will see that even the Eminent Persons Group has had 3 sessions, they're still themselves trying to understand this. And there is discussion about whether the 15th of August is still a feasible date to kick off. As we understand it, there's a kick-off process, then there's a 6 to 8 month public engagement with the intention of trying to involve almost every South African under the sun, or all citizens of this country. and then to find the mechanisms for taking all of these inputs, by which time obviously hopefully the themes and the areas. Now there are difficulties. It's what is the role of political parties? Do you exclude them or do you include them? The reality is that political parties, there's 16 million South Africans who have voted for them. So to say that they don't represent anybody also then doesn't make the dialogue sufficiently inclusive. So I think there's a lot that we discovered this morning that we didn't know. Because there are some foundations and civil society organizations who want to make a public statement about not being part of this process. There are some political parties who have also said that they won't be part of this because ideologically and otherwise they're also opposed to it. So our own view was that we still need a follow-up discussion now from the foundation to meet with Nkosinati, Biko, and the group of foundations who have been part of the steering committee. And in the course of the week, we think we would have a better understanding to decide whether we commit to this process or we don't. In a way, our day-to-day work about keeping government accountable, mobilizing communities, organizing communities, will continue whether there is a dialogue or not. So it's not either one of the two. The dialogue might have opportunities of involving millions of South Africans in either delivering a new freedom charter or a new national development plan, but perhaps with better accountability and delivery mechanisms. But those are the issues that, as far as I understand, the agenda is not yet fixed. Thanks.
Yusuf, do you want to respond to Rishan? Wait, one moment. One moment.
Still loudspeaker. Still loudspeaker. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Why is it so soft? One moment.
The volume up.
I just put the volume up. I just entered the volume.
Hello?
Go on speaker. You have a comment? Yes. Let me just respond to Sean.
Speak now.
Maybe we must go.
I need to write it down in the chat when we can.
Yes. I'd love to write down. But otherwise you can do
Yeah. She got the problem with Yusuf side. Problem with Yusuf.
So before I get to Yusuf's comments, there's a few comments. Peggy says, ACM is spot on in its observation regarding the process thus far. There's a concern shared by many as regards where the plan was conceived and by whom. What is the understanding of inclusivity? Thus far, it appears to be government-led, yet all statements and reports back, while coming from the government, claim to want a citizen-led process. This resolution is an important starting point for ACM engagement. Logan Naidu says, considering the fatal flaws already identified, is it worth ACM lending legitimacy to the national dialogue? Peggy made another comment. There appears to be few compacts participating in the national dialogue process. One is the Coalition of Trust, and then there is a group of 40 CSOs being coordinated by Kagiso Trust. Is there any merit in engaging with these compacts first? And then Yusuf said the issues Shan has raised about the AKF is precisely the issue of the lack of transparency. Everybody's in the dark.
Sorry, there's two more questions. Fozia, you can.
Yashika, I'd like to suggest a way forward light of the fact that we're having difficulties to hear you, so it's a very real problem, and we're not making progress. And in light of the fact of what Rashad Bolton is saying, I think we need to look at this issue. So, it seems like you just wanted an in-principle kind of acceptance of looking at the issue of national dialogue. So my suggestion would be the following. Let's get from the meeting today, let's get the in-principle acceptance that this is an issue we need to really look at. But I think let's arrange another time to discuss it fully, because we're not going to be able to. So I think we need to, you should already compile a document. Some people are saying should even be part of it. But that doesn't mean anything. As we engage, we're going to find it, we're going to get closer and closer to what we really want. So I'm suggesting a way forward of accepting the in-principle discussion around the national dialogue, and then to actually find another time and place to discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you. Hershila.
Just wanted to say there's a comment there. No, I'm covered now.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I support the last speaker. I propose that we accept in principle the resolution proposed by Yusuf Fowler, in particular that the ACM participates critically in this process, and the fact that we should not focus on the problems that are facing the country, but focus on the root causes and how we can overcome them. Those are two elements of the resolution I particularly support, and so I would like the House, we've got two proposals, to accept the resolution as principle. Thank you.
Yusuf, have you heard Hershila and Fawzia? And so basically they're proposing that we accept in principle, and possibly we would have to host an online meeting where we will discuss the matter further and critically engage with our membership. Nazire's hand is up.
No, it was actually.
Oh, sorry.
But we were covered lovely there.
Perhaps you can respond in the chat, Yusuf, and we read it out. Okay,
thanks, Yeshua. Thank you. But I've been covered by Fawzia, so I'm not going to repeat. Thank you.
So Yusuf has supported that, and I think just to move on, can we accept that we will put together an online forum where we will engage with you via the membership group and possibly others. We have Ila Gandhi, who's with us, and part of the eminent persons group. Probably, we can direct our questions and seek more information and answers from. And perhaps we will conclude with that decision that will be minuted at the BGM that we accept in principle.
But I think we need to get from members whether we go ahead with the proposals to accept in principle and defer the discussion to another day. So
yes, I think that's what I've said, and I think any objection to that decision?
Online
support.
Online, yeah.
Online.
Nobody's commented on that. Thank you very much for that and for all your contributions. We have one more resolution, slightly shorter. Two more.
Two more resolutions.
All right, look now, would you like to come through? We need to move on these two. And the third one is Crispin. Yeah. We really need a resolution from you, Crispin. You stressed us all out this week.
Can I say that? Come up.
Thank you very much. So it was proposed this afternoon that we do a resolution on Palestine. I've just drafted something very quickly. So being a lecturer, I'm quite anxious about putting this out there. It's not done on ChatGPT or anything, but it may not be perfect, so we might have to amend it later. But the ACM resolution on Palestine, we, the members of the Active Citizens Movement, gathered here at the BGM held at the 1860 Heritage Center on 26 July 2025, recognizing the genocide currently unfolding in Gaza and the human rights violations taking place across the Palestinian territories, resolved as follows. 1. We call on our national government to take urgent action in regard to the situation of the forced starvation being imposed on the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip through the various platforms that it has access to. 2, we demand that the Rafah border is opened immediately and necessary food, medical and other aid is allowed into Gaza immediately. 3, we demand that the apartheid state of Israel is held accountable for its violations of human rights and international law. 4, we demand an immediate end to the occupation of Palestine and the dismantling of the apartheid structure imposed by the apartheid state of Israel. So that's a broad draft of the resolution. As I said, we can amend it, so that's open now for discussion and adoption if the House is keen. So, Chair, up to you.
Any questions or comments?
Comrade Chair, can we add to the resolution the whole issue of boycotting products?
Yes.
And can we add not selling coal and oil to Israel, please? Oh, yeah.
Yes. Any further comments?
Can we add something about sanctioning or prosecuting people who have been fighting for the IDF soldiers
in South Africa?
There's so many
So I support the resolution, but I'm just worried around the food issue. Executive said that the food issue is the result of that is that they're using that to kill people. So I don't know if you want to amend that, because I mean it's been utilized in an incorrect manner. So you want to expand on that, just saying that they're giving food, but it can't be used as a way to now further kill the Palestinian people. So I think you need to do that.
The issue of the food thing was that we want our government to make an intervention because people are starving. So the South African government has access to multiple platforms, and the demand is that they use those platforms to insist that food is allowed in. So that's what that particular point was about. Thanks.
With those few additions and a slight amendment, can we have a vote on it? Who would like to second this resolution?
Akil.
Akil, Vice Chair, and who else? Fozia.
Rashida, Fozia, Deborah.
All right. It's unanimous then.
No, the other.
No objections, unanimous.
No.
Good. Chair will amend the resolution posted online.
Thank you very much.
Tristan, would you like to come forward and read your resolutions?
This is a brave young man who thinks of Mizula.
You know, I heard the call for the young people now to start coming out, so that's why I'm here. But there's so much to say, and there's so little time. What I'm proposing is this as the resolution. ACM condemns the active denial of people's constitutional rights of access to health services. That's section 27 of the Constitution. It's being very obviously violated, and the police are doing nothing to stop that. 2, ACM resolves that the executive explores effective ways of supporting these rights, and B, decides on specific action for ACM to take. And I've thought about, well, there's so many different things that could be done. One idea would simply be, if possible, to get a group from perhaps Abu Shali and other supporting organizations together, and actually simply form a sort of barricade that allows anyone who wishes to enter Addington to enter, that's all. There's security there that if they don't allow people for some reason, well, that has to be within their rules. But simply to create that pathway, and then to liaise with the people who've been in touch with me, who are being most actively excluded in particular foreigners, it's really important to know that the people being excluded are, first of all, undocumented foreigners, secondly, legally documented foreigners, thirdly, South Africans who were born overseas or in other parts of Africa, fourthly, South Africans who don't have IDs, and there's a really large number of those people. Then there are South Africans who just come without an ID because they don't have to come with an ID and are being withheld, as they're being blocked. And finally, people like myself who are South Africans who have an ID, there's no way in hell we're going to show it to some thug in the street. So there's a range of different activities. I mean, I think ACM perhaps should write also to the ministers of health and police, because there's a complete lack of coordination. One of the worst things, I mean, people need to understand that there are people in serious health experiencing really major health problems, like a young teenager who was there in considerable pain. In the end, I had to take her and her two people with her to Victoria, formerly King Edward, only to be told there that they said to her, you must get a transfer form from Addington, which of course is impossible. So health has to do something. And there are many different areas of action that can be explored. I have spoken so far to the DA and to a very nice person, the EFF. They were very nice to me, but I'm not sure if any real action is going to come from those political parties. I will be speaking to MK. I will be speaking to the ANC. I might even get around to speaking to Action SA. Kenny Kalele wouldn't take my calls. He said he was otherwise occupied. So, yeah, I think that may be enough.
Yes. Any questions or comments? Akil?
I've got the word.
Peggy online says, include ACM also condemns the illegal vigilante gangs operating as gatekeepers of service and the violence and bullying perpetrated. Sorry, Peggy online says, include ACM also condemns the illegal vigilante gangs operating as gatekeepers of service and the violence and bullying perpetrated by them.
So can I just ask, thanks, are we particularly trying to focus on exclusion from health? Because, you know, like I was saying with COPS, with the Copenhagen Against African Xenophobia organizations that work with Syria, etc. It's the whole fascism against migrants, basically. It's all of it, right? And so this statement, I'm just trying to clarify here, are we trying to keep it about the health? Or is it more broadly the xenophobic stuff?
So I believe in health services and public services generally.
But I mean, the kind of fascism is closing down people's shops all the time. Do you know what I mean? It's denying livelihoods. It's
exposing everybody
to danger and for all sorts of support services.
Okay, we'll reword it. They're talking about people's constitutional rights generally being closed down by these vigilante groups.
But thank you also for the thing of saying that they seem to call people together to make stand at particular places. Because CARPS, for example, has battled to get South Africans involved, standing for migrants in South Africa. So they're very active in Gauteng, other South Africans, but not here. Yeah, thanks.
Right. So Comrade Crystal will work on the wording and again post it online through our chat groups and so on.
you know, I came back to like, this thing is stressing me out yesterday. I was under so much stress. I was trending on social media. I never want to trend again. And then I come home and there's a student at the house and her friends, it's her birthday, and they're taking pictures in front of the garage, and something struck me. I said, look, I said, Mister, can I dance with you? Can you guys take a video? I want to sing. Then I sang the song about nobody's going to bully me. And then they found it very funny. I thought, no, that's a way of like punching back. And in my mind, I don't know if you've seen this, Zoran Mangani's campaign in New York is like highly creative in his use of social media. I mean, like doing things like suddenly acting as if he's in a Bollywood movie with people. It's like really funny stuff. And people just react. You know, it communicates a different kind of politics from, you know, the kind of, the political parties are really mainly just useless. But we have to find different ways of doing political activity.
Yeah, I must say that those moves, dance moves, seem like he learned it from Addington. As they were pushing and shoving him, he learned to dance moves.
Oh, and by the way, I managed to communicate in the video that circulated that I was appallingly treated. There are no bruises, there's nothing, sorry.
Comrade Hill?
I have 2 comments on the line. Peggy says perhaps ACM should request a meeting with the Commissioner of Police for the province and demand that he makes a public statement on the responsibilities of the police as regards to the protection of all people. And then Calvin says, I just want to say that it's sad to see that any individual can just decide to connect a camera crew and trespass on people's properties demanding they produce their documents. Is it not a direct infringement of the human rights to freedom of movement as I understand it, or moving backwards to the days we have to produce our IDs wherever we went? What can be done to curb this oldest norm that has developed? How do we stop people from interfering with human rights and the core of our Constitution? And then Gandhi says she agrees.
Any comment, Comrade Krista, about contacting the Commission, please?
Yeah, I'll include that. I mean, the police spokesman said I was lying about something about point station. I actually managed to get hold of his phone number, and he was very evasive very quickly. And then he said to me, you've got to speak to the district commissioner, because there was point police who were failing most abjectly. Not all of the police. I don't think there's any clarity in the police. One police officer actually wrote, she was very hostile at the beginning, then I explained to her, she actually said, you're right. She wrote down what I had reported. This is the second day I went there. She wrote down in the OB exactly what I was reporting, so there's a formal record of it. And that's the kind of thing that we should be ensuring happens, that there is formal record when we go to the police.
You guys are doing this stuff police as well.
Having been involved with the xenophobic episodes over the last 10 years or 15 years, this sparks xenophobic tendencies of around foreigners, medical aid, schools, brilliance, shopkeepers, or cases in Victoria Street and Adams Street where the foreigners, the goods are made, metro police are harassing them, taking away the goods, taking away the livelihoods, and these are the training for years. They got permits, they come out, they take away the goods, they take away all the stuff, and they're harassing them. They got goods that are impounded, that they can't have money, and these are the illegal training for metro police. There's court cases that are going on, and also it's to also help those people that are in livelihood to also be involved. And these are all sparks. We all live in Africa. There's a global system. There's always a backlash. Somebody ever said that they have a Mozambique or other parts of South Africa are working. This is another case. Properly look government. We have now another 4 years ago riots that happened in July. Police did nothing. Everything was happening. For the 4 days of May, we thought this was South Africa as it was. So now starts to go forward, these issues should be addressed, and relevant local authorities must get involved and put an end to it. That's my comment.
Of course, we know that xenophobia was a precursor of the 2021 riots, and that race was used as a weapon there as well. So it's all linked to identity politics internationally, and it's playing itself out here. It's part of the rising neo-fascism. Anyway, I would like to Comrade Crispin?
Your I mean, the one thing that I am certain of, this is organised and funded. Funded, and I think we know actually who's funding it. But there's connections between what's happening here and what's happening internationally in relation to Palestine. Operation Dudula, when they were threatening Upper Israelis, one of them actually sent a message, victory to Israel. And the funding is coming from, in particular, it seems one particular business person in South Africa, the intention is to destroy the democratic order as much as possible.
Thank you for that, Crispin. This is where I was saying internationalism becomes so important, international solidarity. It's not just about the problems that we have in here, either in Durban or in South Africa, but internationally there's this rising level of neo-fascism. Right. Let me see who will adopt, who moves to adopt Crispin's resolution. Any objections? No objections. I think it can be adopted unanimously.